Boom. Step 1, the magic machine tells me that I'm live. Step 2 is I sidestep over here to YouTube. Boom. To share out the glorious link. And then, oh wait, let me do one of these. Hold on, bear with me. Come on. Bear with me. Come on, thank you. Jesus. Let's just do one of these. Let's just do one of these. I'll just do that. Everything's a pain in my butt. Bear with me. Come on. Thank you. Boom. Okay. Now that that's done. Bear with me. Hold on now. Bear with me. Just a little business here. Bear with me. Okay. Okay. We did this, did that. People have updated their avatars to comical effect. Folks, 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of these like big legal size pad notes. No, I didn't analyze the latest David Wilcock nonsense. This is not an update on Simon Parks. This is I'm doing what I want to do. I'm covering what I want to cover, which is this nostalgia loop nonsense. I'm not the first person to notice it. I'm taking a kind of a semi-structured approach. I got 4 pages of notes, which were basically the product of me just like blitzing out on some thoughts and ideas. We've definitely discussed a lot of this stuff before, but I want to come through again, concentrate on it, and really go through it methodically. And so these 4 pages of notes that I have for you today is kind of going to be like an outline that I think we're going to start with and refer to moving forward, coming back to it and fleshing it out. So basically, I got 4 pages of notes, which, like I said, is just basically almost like a scree. I don't think that this contains all of my thoughts on the problems with nostalgia and the problems with the nostalgia loop that I've been talking about at length with you. We first started talking about it on this channel. It's been a subject, the 20-year, 30-year nostalgia loop. I started off thinking really exclusively about a 20-year nostalgia loop, but doing research, thinking about it, really, trying to resolve things, not trying to make the world comport with my demands and make things work with my lead conception or narrative, but just rather, just trying to take things and understand things as they're actually working in the world. The nostalgia loops, go from about 20 to 30 years back. People can talk about 20-year nostalgia loop. They can concentrate on a 30-year nostalgia loop. But if you take the 25 anniversaries that are often, part of this, just number one, human society, we universally cultural culture, we divide things into, 5 years, 10 years, 20, 25 years, 30, celebrate things on the fives and the zeros. 35th anniversary, no one really gets banged up about the 34th anniversary. When it really comes to nostalgia and media, music, culture, and the arts, fashion, what have you, it's really, things are going by basically 20 to 30 years out, looping around. And this nostalgia loop has all sorts of implications. It's got implications sociologically. It's got implications for commentary on consumer culture. A lot of different things, and we've been talking about it on this channel since, I wanted to say 1998, but it was late 2018 when this concept of nostalgia loop that I have been playing with. I'd actually first thought about making a book about the 20-year nostalgia loop, back in around like 2000 and, sometimes between 2002, 2003. I haven't really noticed the existence of the nostalgia loop in 2000. And then looking in the year 2000, looking at the records that I had picked up and the vintage records that I had picked up, from 1998 to 1999, and realizing, holy shit, almost all of these records are from 1978, 79. Looking around at MTV circa 2000, when I was first, when you get older and you're no longer, part of the youth demographic, you can kind of, like, with a kind of a remove, look at things a little bit differently. And I looked at things and I was like, holy shit, this is just the 1980s all over again. And sure enough, it lined up, the making of Vietnam movies, there was a hallmark of late 80s cinema, both highbrow, Platoon, Full Metal Jacket, to lowbrow, Missing in Action, what have you. They lined up almost perfectly with the onset of the Vietnam conflict. And when you get to the end of the Vietnam conflict in 1975, look at 1995, 20 years later. That's when they basically stopped making movies about Vietnam. But I don't want to get too far in the fields. Like I said, I've got 4 pages of notes that are basically like a scree about, the nostalgia loop that kind of came out, spontaneously this morning. I had thought about doing this again. I had thought about, I take the weekends off from this channel. I record Monday through Friday, almost daily content. And on Saturday and Sunday is where, I stop. And stopping and taking a break gives me a chance to, clarify and think about things and think about, what I want to talk about or what I should talk about. And you think, and I'm be very honest with you people, and I'm always honest with you people. There's issues about, what are the people like if I make a video about the 20-year nostalgia loop that I love, I'm going to get 35, 40 live viewers. If I talk about one of these guys like Simon Parks or David Wilcock, a person that it's arduous to cover these people and to watch these long form presentations they do and take these notes, you get like 85, 90 people. And so what do? Do you play for the crowd or do you play for yourself? I made enough videos going through, post-election. Here we are. It's January 25th. There are plenty more knuckleheads, still saying online that, what's the latest thing with Donald Trump? That he's the secret president, that he's in an underground bunker, that, they're just letting people think that Joe Biden won because if people knew the real crimes of the Democratic Party, they'd be so shocked it would be a civil war. It's Joe Biden is CGI generated, and it's really, Donald Trump, who the Cabal Alliance metaphorical analysis, whatever. You know what I mean? And it's just like the thought or notion that it's necessary. Like David Wilcock made a tweet. Oh, trust. Basically, essentially, like, trust the plan. Don't worry. In 30 days, we're going to see what happens. Same thing with Simon Parks. I'm not going to spend 30 days watching these guys daily say the malarkey we know that they're going to say. I am just sick and tired of it. I'm not saying I'll never do it again. I'll probably do it when I see, you know what I mean, the numbers go down. But I just also want to say, like, like, you people are cool because you're watching, but the jackasses that, like, watch me talk about Simon Parks but don't watch this stuff, like, they're fucking retarded. Like, I'm not supposed to talk about the audience that way, but it's just like, I don't know. Like, it's one thing, like, we like, I talk and I'm completely frank and honest with people. Like, there's no reason for me not to be frank and honest with you. We've gone this far. What am I going to do? Start BSing you? That I respect everybody's opinion, but you get off and we say, and the knuckleheads and the videos that I get 80 viewers. Don't you think if I ask any of those what is 80 minus 34? And I could, like, learn you guys. I could learn y'all names. Like, we know who's here. Like, you people are intelligent, and everyone else is a jackass. I'm sick of it. I'll explain to you why. Hold on. 45 people. There's 45 fucking douchebags who show up when I talk about Simon Parks or David Wilcock, but don't talk when I'm saying things of actual value. Like, honestly, like, what, you know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to be one of these, you know what I mean? It's like we talk, and when we talk, and if you were to ask any of these 45 knuckleheads, why do people like David Wilcock or Simon Parks, they're going to go, oh, it's shocking and it's, like, bizarre to us, and we have no idea why people listen to them or follow them. And it's like, well, if you're questioning why people listen to or follow them, like, why are you following people that just talk crap, that just deconstruct nonsense that you don't need anyone? You don't need me or Stephen Cambion or friggin' Paranormal Hood or anyone to tell you that these guys are talking malarkey. It's ridiculous. And if you think that what I'm saying is funny when I talk about these people, you think that it's, like, comedic or whatever. Like, do you think I'm not funny with, like, if I did, like, a 45-minute analysis on the pilot episode of the 1980 sitcom It's a Living? If I do an analysis of the 1980 pilot episode of the 1980 sitcom It's a Living, I'll fucking kill it. Just fucking tune in, like, idiots. I'm not gonna lie to you. I have no respect for people who watch the worst things that I do. Do you know what I mean? I mean, like, I have no respect for people who watch. You're basically like, you're the people who will, like, show up to a Kiss concert, you know what I mean? Like, and say, like, okay, I want to hear them play Rock and Roll All Night and Party Every Day, and I want to hear I Love It Loud. And once they do those two things, let's beat the crowd to the parking lot. You want to beat the crowd out to the parking lot before the fucking finale of the Kiss show? Guess what? You're missing the fucking fireworks, asshole. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Are you dumb? Sorry, I don't know where this is coming from. I apologize. And I ate today. I swear to Jesus. I did everything in my power. I ate, I hydrated, I did everything in my power to avoid an absolute apoplectic meltdown, but I'm just sick of it. I just don't get it. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like seeing, like, dumb people who want to see dumb art at the Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art. You know what I mean? Like, if I go to Giant Stadium for, like, a Van Halen reunion show and there's knuckleheads in the parking lot, I'm not, like, taken aback. I'm not like, oh my God, like, I can't believe, like, there's, like, the subtle airs of hatred of intelligentsia and the kind of the general, like, USA of this crowd is, like, unnerving to me. I'm not surprised when I see knuckleheads at the fucking knucklehead convention. You know what I mean? But it's like if I go to the Museum of Modern Art and there's like jackasses there, I'm like, why are you at the ballet? Like, what do you like? You know what I mean? Like, why are you here? I have to encounter this. So it's like if you go over to the live chat of a David Wilcock broadcast, and there's people going, where we go, one we go all, or just being all sorts of dumb, you're like, okay, you know what I mean? Like par for the course, I get it. Like, but then you come here and people are tuning in like, oh, they're dumb over there. And it's like, you're smart for your being over here because you get it that stuff over there is dumb. And then here you're all on and you only pay attention to the dumb shit. You know what I mean? It's dumb. And I can basically talk like this because those jerks are never going to see this video anyway, right? All y'all who pay attention to just tune into the Simon Parks and David Wilcock videos and Mendoza videos, y'all are like dumb ass cracker loser jackass morons, and your mom doesn't love you, and everything your dad ever said about you that was positive was a lie. Right, I can say that all day because they're never going to see it because they're going to see the title of this video, and the title of this video is not Simon Parks or David Wilcock or Mendoza or whatever, so they're just never going to freaking tune in. Oh, anyway, who? Sorry, I didn't want to know it. I'm not even looking at the live chat. I don't even care anymore. I don't love anybody. Okay. Let me turn this off. This is distressing me. I'll leave the live chat. Fires Spooky's first on Periscope. Golden Coin 100's first on YouTube. Lisa Kane is silver on YouTube. Jill D has the bronze. Jasmine Emmerich is here. That's wonderful. Spooky's on YouTube. Jay Roach is here. Kid Cosmic is here. Rose Joy is here. Rugged Source is here. Jill D listening while working. That's fantastic. Jason Albert is here. Damon Spencer here. Golden Coin 100 first on Twitch. Going for that double factor. We got a Spooky over on Twitch as well. All right, grabbing that silver. We got Dobromir of Raynov. We got Rooster. We got Lenny B. We got Bunya. We got Rooster Cyburbs. We got Jonaside. We got Darcy. We got Cloctopus. We got Jonaside. Oh my God! No, and now I just want to get to these 4 pages of notes, but now I'm gonna have to undo the damage I did because I insulted everybody. There you go. Hold on. I can tell, like, it's like a geologist, digging through the earth, an archaeologist like digging through the layers of sedimentary soil, like 2,500 years, 3,000 years. Like I could basically go through the live chat and basically figure out where I stopped dropping bombs and start telling people that I hated them. I don't hate anybody, but I'm not going to play this game if I'm thankful for the people that pay attention to the worst shit that I do. Oh, the remake of Coming to America. That's jeez. This is what's going on. This is the stupidity. We got Laney Liberty's here with us. Sojourn On is here with us. Jasmine Emmerich as Conspiracy Land is regrouping. Latest is Trump to become 19th president of the United States of the U.S. on March 4th, 2021. I talked about that, about him being the 19th president. We in regards to covering Simon Parks, I think it was. Anyway. Or maybe there's gonna be no reaction to me going off on everybody. Now this is great. Zerdo says, I don't know what point Zerdo's put in the live chat. Has anyone seen the driving instructor's latest news update? As I'm basically like anyone who pays attention to me when I talk to the news update for these jackasses is a bottom feeder. Say hello to Oceans in Space. We see Lee B. Veltman. Dana Newton joining us saying transhumanism is the end game. Well, I'm going to say it's the nostalgia loop, but there you go. And then I'm going to go out. Lisa Kane says, here we're here for UCW. Thank you. Spooky. Well, now we're going up. Now I'm going to end up going up, and then I'm going to be like, okay. I'll retract because we're going up in numbers. I'll retract what I said about the people that. Here, Jonaside says, I would so watch the review of It's a Living. Can that be a panel show? Absolutely. Meanwhile, it's available on Tubi. Everything's on Tubi. If you're liking the nostalgia loop, get ready for it. We've got Tom F1 for you calling me CW King of Kitsch. I'll accept that. I'd rather be King of Kitsch than the King of CW celebrating the year 2001 with his 1999 Earth Tone plaid flannel. Absolutely. There you go. I never said I wasn't behind the times. I said I'm just slightly behind the times for the times that we're behind. Okay, here we go. Bomb. Okay, so there you go. Oh my God. Okay, here we go. So I got these. I forgot. I don't know where I went. Where I went south of the border and started yelling and screaming at the audience. It's probably not a good move. From a marketing person, I could just see like I always like sometimes I have fantasies. I can't afford a marketing consultant. You know what I mean? If I did have the money to spend on a marketing consultant, it wouldn't matter because I would just end up ignoring their instructions. But occasionally it's like you have those like cartoons with like the angel and the devil sitting on your shoulders. Like sometimes I'll have that, but it's a little marketing guy, or a gal, like, and they'll be like, I know you're not taking notes, but just an FYI, we know you are aware of the fact that, you've got X number of subscribers. We're not telling you to sell out, but maybe they're like little things you could do. Yeah, like what? Well, generally you want to court your audience. You want them to think that here's a place that they can feel comfortable and safe. And so you want to generally avoid doing things like, I don't know, point blank insulting the audience to their face. Oh, really? Is that something I should avoid? Yeah. I mean, maybe just as a decent human being, you wouldn't want to insult me. Peasant Media giving us $2. All right, there you go. My God. And Lee B. Veltman being provocative. You know what I mean, Lee? If we were in group together, you know what I mean? I would pick up on the language of the therapist, and I would turn to you and I'd say, he's being provocative again, right? That's what he's doing. He's being provocative. You're going to deny that you're being provocative? Always provocative. Anyway, concentrate on the Peasant Media giving us $2. There you go. Did somebody say group? There you go. The only thing this group is missing is little pillows for us to hug. Do you know what I mean? Well, let's get the show on the road before somebody else catches a resentment. 1/25/2021. I'm gonna read out these notes, and I think these notes is basically kind of an outline that we can come back to. I don't think it's complete in any way, shape, or form. And I think what it is that it stops and it starts. Things occurred to me. We'll add to it. We won't subtract from it. But what I'm going to do, all I'm going to try and do today is I'm going to try and. Now, Spooky, you can't demand an apology. Remember, what do we always say, kids? What do we always say? We can't control what other people do, but we can control our reactions. We can ask for an apology. We certainly can. And we're allowed to take our own stock of our own self-worth. And we're allowed to say to people who don't give us an apology, I'm not going to invest in you or your time. But if we start out making demands for apologies, what are we doing, kids, all together? We're setting ourselves up for disappointment, right? The strength has to come from within. The strength has to come from within. Lee, can you put the phone away? No, I know. But after, okay? For now, here, we put our phones away. If it's an emergency, you can take it outside. If it's a real emergency, is it a real emergency? Then I'm going to ask you to put away the phone. Okay, that's fine. No, I can accept that, but I'm going to ask you to put away your phone. Okay? Now let's get to CW's worthless notes that nobody wants to hear. So I think this stuff is very interesting. And like I said, these are all notes, and these notes are all over the place. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to go to the bottom. And we might not go all the way to the bottom, right? And like I said, when I say these notes are notes and an outline we can kind of come back to, I'm going to like touch on things, and I'm going to tell you like where I think we can come back to. And knowing me and knowing you, no, you cannot crosstalk. There's no crosstalk. Jesus, no crosstalk. You know what I mean? I will come to your houses one by one and abuse you. Notes on Nostalgia Hell series. Because I intend this to be a series, because I could give a fuck about these jackass morons who think Q is what we're gonna do, talk about Q all day. We're gonna, oh my god, you guys will never guess it. David Wilcock made another video and you're never gonna guess what he said. Stuff that's not true. Oh my god, can you believe Simon Parks? Simon Parks is saying that Donald Trump is. Can you believe that Simon Parks, the guy that we all know is wrong about things, is saying, guess what he's saying? Him and David Steele, guess what they're saying? They're saying they're right about things. And guess what? Their rationale for saying it's dumb. It doesn't make any sense. It's foolish. I'll come back to those guys like in 2 weeks. Notes on Nostalgia House series. Concentrations. So what prompted this is we've been talking about the 20-year nostalgia loop and the 30-year nostalgia loop. I'm just going to call it the nostalgia loop. I'm going to get rid of the 20 demarcation, really, and we're just going to go with nostalgia loop, and we'll just update our data sets as we go. I'm never going to get through this whole thing, and it's because you tell that I've lost my shit over these notes. I keep on referring to this thing as the film. Or as a movie. Hello to Keats. We see Keats is here. And the more I tell people that I'm sick and tired of talking about Q, the more they're going to... And I keep on mentioning it. And I'm not even talking about it, but I keep on mentioning it. So that they're going to get flagged. You're ruining my lives. All of you. You know what I mean? I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna like jump off a. I'm gonna jump off a pier onto a moving train, like that's headed to New Orleans. So I'll come back as some sort of fucking voodoo ghost. Then I'm gonna like put myself in a friggin' like, SIM card. My ghost is gonna download itself, and I'm gonna come up in your houses and just like eat your peanut butter and steal all your shit. For all the shit that you've done for me. So no notes on nostalgia. So here's what really got me started on this. The latest things that I've been noticing is we did this 30-year nostalgia loop. We did this nostalgia loop studies. And we talked about in regards to time travel, about this notion that every 20 years, that everything that's going on nowadays, in any point in time, since 1980, has been basically just a recapitulation of something that happened 20 or 30 years before, whether it's movies, media, books, comic books, graphic novels, fashion, what have you, dance crazes, what have you. And but we started, like I said, I've been thinking about this subject since 2000, roughly. But then I noticed I just started to come out and talk to you guys about it in 2018, 20 years after 1998. And I realized, like, holy shit, like, as we're talking about it, like, things are kind of getting befuddled, but I don't think it's because because the nostalgia loop theory fails. I think that there's something happening with the nostalgia loop. And that happened like right around the year, 2019 going into 2019, 2020. 2019, 2020, I started noticing things that were going like kind of haywire, and then I realized, like, oh yeah, I started to notice this nostalgia loop in 2000, saying that everything was going back to 1980. Here we are in 2020 or 2019, going back to 1999, and everything was recycled by that point already. So we're getting a recycling of recycling, and because it's a 30 year nostalgia loop. You're basically getting these feedback loops where it's like this nostalgia is coming back on itself over and over again, mixing 70s disco culture being mixed in with like 1981 hip-hop references at the intersection of friggin' superstition and weed, and it's all getting cracked up crazy, it's all getting befuddled and weirded. And I'm gonna actually end with notes on that. So, like I said, this is like stream of consciousness here as I wrote it. So it's like, forgive me, um, forgive me if it doesn't make the perfect amount of sense. But what I noticed with it particularly is the need to come back and talk about the nostalgia loop, because I really think that there's a problem, and I really think that um there were three pieces of media that really kind of made me realize the potential problems with life with these reiterating nostalgia loops, and the fact that if we go from 1980 to 19 if we go from 1990 to 1980, we can see and understand and appreciate a cultural shift, that the world seems differently, not just in terms of technology being used or technology available, but in the look, the sound, the feel of the media, of the type of art and stuff that people were making. You can tell the difference between 1990 and 1980. You can tell the difference between 1980 and 1970. You can tell the difference between 1970 and 1960. Um, but can you tell the difference between 2010 and 2000? And if you say that you can you tell the difference between 2020 and 2010? And like I said, none of this stuff is stuff that I haven't spoken to you guys before. This is going to be a recapitulation, but I think, you know, these issues bear repeating. Because even though we're just talking about music, media, and what have you, I think it's tied to, people's life experiences. And I think it's tied to real cultural things. I'm looking at these notes, I'm appraising these notes, and I'm realizing that I that I have to just start and get through them. Or else what will happen is I'll tell you everything, or I'll say everything that I've already reviewed for myself this day in these notes, and then it won't make any sense, and I'll feel like it's crazy to repeat them. Three pieces of media that are nostalgia abortions. They are bad. You can like them for what they are if you think that shiny lights and action is exciting. But these pieces of work are actually abominations. And it goes to show you that there is no modern culture. There will be no modern culture. There's just, for a thousand reasons I'm going to go through time, I'm just going to keep on hitting this hammer of letting people know that Um, we've entered late stage capitalism hell at the streaming. There's all sorts of problems. Ready Player One, Wonder Woman 1984, and WandaVision. I'm not saying that these pieces of art are Hitler. And I'm not saying that if you like these pieces of art that, I'm right and you're wrong. But I'll get into them. So the original idea was that I was going to introduce a series where I was going to talk about each of these three pieces of media specifically, one by one. And then it was, well, I'll take some notes to kind of do an intro, and then we'll get to these movies. Then as I started to take notes, other pieces of media and other artists got named to the list. And that's how we ended up where we're at now. So, Ready Player. So I'll tell you the media as we go through them. The notes will come up and the problems will be arisen one by one. I'm not going to try to fully explore everything at this. At this at this juncture, everyone's reacting to the pieces of art. Uh, there you go. And you're allowed to have your own opinions about these things. Here we go. We're also good. So I'm good. How do I get through these notes? So my notes, when I take notes, they're kind of organized. I'm kind of organizing my thoughts visually on the page, and that to try and give them to you as a linear experience doesn't always work. Oh, but let me go. So what Ben, I'm talking to myself now because we're 38 minutes into this and we haven't even done we haven't even really done it yet. So let me start. Jesus Christ. Concentrations. Ready Player One, Wonder Woman 1984, and WandaVision. Then I also have on the side note video game movies. Battleship, Rampage, and Jumanji. And I make a correlation and connection between Jumanji. There's the reboots. We're on the sequel of the reboot of Jumanji that was originally based on a fantastical board game that got transformed into a fantastical video game. Right now we're on part 2 of that fucking bullshit reboot of that franchise with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Dwayne The Rock Johnson first appeared on the WWF, now the WWE, in approximately 1999, 2000. So here we are 20 years later, and I have a note here regarding Dwayne Johnson that's going to apply to other actors we're going to talk to and directors we're going to speak about. Feedback foldover. If you can last 20 years, you can flip on the loop. Meaning, if an actor or an actress or a director or musician is able to have a career that lasts 20 years or beyond, then they can actually catch heat off the nostalgic return of their music. For example, Metallica, 20 years approximately after their first record or two, they returned to their traditional thrash metal sound on an album called Death Magnetic, which essentially is a nostalgic, it's a band covering itself, which is bizarre when you think of the notion of death magnetic, like death attracting things to it or whatever. Also, the Big Bang Theory. And now check this out. Nerd culture equals consumer culture equals bad. And I said, as applies to the items listed below. And I said, it's no mistake that we see these nostalgia abominations occur within the confines of quote unquote nerd culture. WandaVision is a property based on characters from comic books that has now been recycled and reappropriated by Disney, that now owns Marvel, Star Wars, and the original Disney IPOs or IPs. And then Ready Player One, Ready Player One is like the worst movie of all time. it's like not even funny how bad it is, but it's just this jack off of and the lionization of nerd culture that that didn't start with Big Bang Theory, because Big Bang Theory is on the 20-year nostalgia loop of that movie Revenge of the Nerds. But if you go back to the movie Revenge of the Nerds, they are not nerds because of the media they like. There's no reference in Revenge of the Nerds to these guys, being really into Dungeons and Dragons or really into, Monty Python or anything. The Revenge of the Nerds sees a culture. They're into computers. They're basically smart. They're outsiders. That's what defines them. Their outsider characteristic, and that they're on some sort of bleeding edge of a future conviction or a future culture to be. When you get to the nostalgia loop rewind of it, everything comes back twisted. It comes back haunted. It comes back broken and wrong. The worst aspects of it are repeated because it's only the worst aspects that can be easily culturally, commodified, appropriated, and recycled. So disco culture, the monumental, some of the monumental force and beauty of disco culture was multiracial and pansexual, the acceptance of homosexual members of the society, and the exploration of a gay culture being able to move forward into the limelight, and basically first in the form of pantomime actors, mockeries and sends ups, but the ability to come forward and be visible. And what does it come back when it comes back recycled? It comes back as just bell bottom pants and a disco ball and boo and afros, like, you know what I mean? And John Travolta's, white suit. So the Big Bang Theory comes back from the nerd culture, but then what is Big Bang Theory all about? Everything is just a commercial for this nerd culture. Means you're into comic books, you're into movies, you're into these movies, you're into science fiction, you're into Magic the Gathering, you're into video games. These people are completely defined by their consumer choices. Completely defined by their consumer choices. Also, I want to add the fact that the Big Bang Theory came out of this guy. What's his name? Chuck, whatever his name, the same guy who did Two and a Half Men. This is one of the last guys that can get away with. You don't think about it at the time, but on reflection, looking back at Big Bang Theory, I'm like, wow, that was like the last time, like hardcore racial stereotypes were able to just like come out and be like that way. And also the notion that, I'm going to be completely honest, if you really think about it, the guy Sheldon Cooper is kind of like a proto-fascist. If you actually think about what he says, does, and the actions and the things that he demands of the people around him, it's like ridiculous. Chuck Lorre, fucking asshole. Did you know that Chuck Lorre helped create Muppet Babies? And that's what I mean. Like, the nostalgia loop thing is deep in these people, these fucking jackasses. It's like Ben Stiller. If you think about all these like really successful people, they all do. Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, these really successful people who make essentially soul sucking, crap, especially as time goes on and they get older. They just know the sweet subconscious science of this 20-year nostalgia loop, and how to just like suck, the money out of, people by basically, just regurgitating, rehashing their youth like a Electric Messiah on a neon cross. I don't know. I'm trying to get two Muppet Babies on you, but also Chuck Lorre. Also, not only did Chuck Lorre help create the Muppet Babies, including that fucking theme song, he also wrote that song. Well, it's kind of an okay song, "French Kissing in the USA," that was done by Debbie Harry. Okay. So, no mistake, we see the nostalgia loop abomination occur within here, this nerd culture. I mean, this is just disgusting. You cannot define yourself. If you define yourself by your consumer choices, you're a jackass. Lee got timed out. Are you serious? What happened? Oh, interesting. Here we go. Keith's bringing the heat. Keats saying, fun fact, Warner Brothers owned Big Bang Theory, which is why there are no Marvel comic references, only DC. And that's something we got to come back to, because there's so much of this stuff that people think is like organic, that it's like their choices. No, these are corporate choices. These are corporate choices. People are getting nostalgic for things. It's like you had no choice in what was on the TV screen or what's on the tablet screen or what's on the video screen when you're born and first open your eyes and your parents neglect you by putting you in front of it for 24 hours a day. You know what I mean? Like there's like, you know, like He-Man and G.I. and then we'll get to that, because then you have people that have no reason to lionize certain pieces of crap media, but absolutely do, just because they've basically been instructed to. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? If like I see it all the time, like kids who are not old enough to have seen the original He-Man cartoons acting like He-Man, and I'm like, why would you get excited about He-Man? Like He-Man was a bullshit TV. It was a commercial for toys. You know what I mean? Like, why you there's no culture here to return to. This is not Dune. This is not Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces. There's no fucking narrative here. Okay? There's no long-standing character arcs. You can't really just get into it. This is not Game of Thrones. What the fuck are you acting excited about this or G.I. Joe? You weren't even alive during the Cold War. Why the fuck are you lionizing this paramilitary fascistic junta known as G.I. Joe? The loot primarily can be seen or experienced in items of commodity or trade. Its expanse outwards may indicate something troubling, because we talked about the 20-year nostalgia loop. We talked about the nostalgia loop and how we can even see it in terms of, you know, the presidential politics or world events, like the election of, like the presidency of Bill Clinton, as the second presidency of Bill Clinton, second term Bill Clinton, as it lines up almost perfectly with the timeline of Donald Trump's one term. I'm here in the notes of page 1. I've got to pick up the pace. We've just got to jet through this. We've just got to get through. What is going on? Please, are you serious? Do you see the problems that I have in life? I'm here in the notes. I'm not making any sense. We're 48 minutes and 59 seconds into this piece. I'm here in the notes, and I've got 4 pages of notes. I'm here. Are you serious? What the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? And you people are the people that are supposed to be my friends. Revenge of the Nerds and Ben Stiller, Reality Bites, Zoolander, because Ben Stiller knows all about the 20-year nostalgia loop. And what does he use to produce it? Zoolander. So then when people think of 80s references, they're thinking about things that didn't even take place in the 80s. Reality Bites occurred in the late 1990s. It is an homage and a love letter to mid 70s culture. Ben Stiller is successful because he knows about the 20-year nostalgia loop. Why he ended up there in the notes, I can't editorialize my own notes. This is going to be crazy. How am I going to do this for you guys? I should have whiteboarded this. Perennials and how they got that way. These are, especially in light of loop on loop, these are things, media items, characters, clauses, causations, and story ideas that keep on coming up and get recycled over and over again. This is going to be scattershot. King Kong, The Primordial, Godzilla, Cloverfield, which was just a remake of Godzilla. So Godzilla representing the future fear, scientific abortions, Gaia's revenge. If you the first Godzilla movie in Japan occurred, or one of the most popular ones. Godzilla started becoming popular in America in the 1970s. There was a remake in the late 1990s. Then Cloverfield happened in the mid 2000s, which is basically just another remake. So we have these. How am I going to make heads or tails of these notes? Lee just got banned. Okay, stop. Hold on. What is going on? The entire world is melting. I cannot believe this is happening to me. I can't believe this is happening to me. Well, I can't. Well, actually, I can't believe that's happening to me because this is my life. This is what happens. Are you serious? What happened? Okay. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. Hold on. Okay. I came. It was an accident. Now everyone wants to start crap. Okay. Hold on. Stop. Okay. If it was a if it's a mistake, then it's a mistake, and we're gonna undo it. It's fine. Let's figure this out. Hold on. Now I'm gonna do this one thing at a time. I have to. I have to figure out. Okay. 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 Hold on. Oh, sweet Jesus. And the way that they redid this friggin' studio. How do I do this? Where is it under community? I forget what they did. Hold on. Hold on. Dashboard. Go to the community tab. Is this it? No. I'm trying to figure out the dashboard. I'm trying to figure out where I gotta go to freaking get the guy on fucking blocked. Are you motherfucking kidding me? I remember it was like saying nuts. Hold on. Settings? Ah, community. Okay, here we go. Moderators. Are you serious? Jesus Christ. The people that are moderators on this fucking channel is ridiculous. Approve. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Hidden users. Okay, here we go. Where is this? Oh, it's not even fucking alphabetical. Are you serious? Oh my God. Is this alphabetical or is this by order of when they got blocked? Hold on. Motherfuck. Y'all are nuts. Shouldn't it be here? because it doesn't show up under Lee Veltman doesn't show up under hidden users. Oh motherfuck. Yeah, okay. Okay, so okay, so Lee Veltman's back. He was on it. So I'm doing this and it's on hit. Yeah. You fucks! I swear to God, you fucking people are driving me nuts. Oh, you're driving me nuts. I'm this on this page of the notes. I got water in my eye. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm an hour into this thing and I'm this throwing the notes. I just have to do this. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. This is just how we're going to do it. We're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. We can do this. If I don't get through all the way through the notes by the end of today, that's fine. I'm just going to come back. I'm just going to come back tomorrow and I'm going to do it again. And I'm just going to keep on doing it until we get to the end of the notes completely. And guess what I'm going to do then? Then I'm going to tell you that I was right when I said that this was just an outline and not the whole fucking kit and caboodle. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do fucking 5 weeks, 6 weeks. No, fuck you. 5 years of the Nostalgia Loop content. That's all we're going to do from now on. And that's going to be like what you have to watch and deal with until you stop watching. And the minute you stop watching, that's cool. Just know that I'm cursing you out by name. Susan Brooks. Hi, kids. I'm late to the party, and apparently I missed some crap. Okay. Let me catch you. Try to catch this. Oceans and Spaces, V, help us. Do you know what V's track record in settling and calming things down in the live chat is? You were basically Oceans and Spaces like, oh man, I can't deal with all this hostility across the borders. Somebody called like Netanyahu. Someone called Yasser Arafat and get them in here. Oh, are you kidding me? Are you serious? Hold on. George Lucas, Star Wars, and Indiana Jones. The Hero with 1,000 Faces, Joseph Campbell, and George Lucas. See Academia Indoctrination below. That's a note regarding how this nerd culture fascination has now been around so long that it's been incorporated into communication studies around the world. Dan Harmon as third-rate, rewind, recycled George Lucas with his dumbass version of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. Rick and Morty, one of the worst pieces of media product as well. Entertaining, I laugh at it, but it's as bad as Ready Player One, Wonder Woman 1984, or WandaVision. It's just friggin' references. It's like Family Guy. It's just fucking past media references thrown in your face so that the kids could get high and be like, oh shit, fucking, yeah, what you talking about, Willis? 40 years of coverage. This is the Star Wars movies. So you have the originals that come out between 1977 and 1983. You have the prequels that almost come out 20 years to the day of each of those. Then you have the new Disney trilogy, which is literally 20 years post the prequels. So you've got 40 years of coverage. Um, so talk about the 20 to 30 year nostalgia loop, and then you've got a media product in Star Wars that's been regurgitated over and put in people's faces and hit on the nostalgia loop over the course of 40 years. It's systematic indoctrination and the importation of one man's personal mythology into being something, like almost like myth. It's like they're trying to pre-program the human subconscious. When Joseph Campbell studied came up with wrote The Hero with a Thousand Faces, or The Power of Myth, he was reflecting upon the actual product of actual indigenous and world cultures that came up with these ideas, thoughts, metaphors, and mythologies and aphorisms, not on a fucking, Hollywood, screenplay mock up. But they were just the actual results and products of their fucking actual human culture. Now we're replacing that and acting as though this stuff is the mythology of the modern era. It's not the mythology of the modern era. It's science fiction written by one guy, George Lucas, who's, kind of a smart cookie, but is not fucking Frank Herbert, by any stretch of the imagination. He's not J. Earl Tolkien by any stretch of the fucking imagination. And we're allowing these things to be imported into our lives, and the youth are importing these things and repeating these things as if they're organic mythology. Freddy Krueger is not Dracula. You know what I mean? Jason Voorhees is not Frankenstein's monster, but we'll get there. Um, then it's in the hands of Disney now. So think about Disney now, who have this media empire that are basically they're considered no parent really questions Disney product. Disney has, for no reason other than financial success, been given this kind of, and the fact that generations of generations and generations of people have been raised on it. I'm amazed how many times people like put on Disney. They have the little baby. The baby's now like 2 or 3. Oh, we're going to show the baby Cinderella. Oh, we're going to show the baby Snow White. Or we're going to show the baby Pinocchio. We're going to show the baby Alice in Wonderland. And you see these competent, parents who, they're young, but the guy's an accountant, the mom's an educator, whatever. They put the DVD in, or the VHS tape. They put the DVD in like their parents did before them, because their parents did it to them in the movie theater, and they put it in, and they're sitting there as adults. As the kid is watching, they're fixated on this bizarre fucking movie, and the adult is sitting there going, wow, I don't remember Alice in Wonderland being this fucking psychotic and creepy. Little cute things like the little oysters that get eaten, you know what I mean? Snow White's full of all sorts of fucked up shit. Cinderella's a horror story. It's a horror story about child abuse, and the parents are going, it's like, why'd you put that fucking movie in? It's Disney. Oh, genius. Smart. Now we're going to take the kids. I love Disney World. I'm going to take, I'm taking my kids. You take your kids to Disney World, and you realize that sometimes like there's aspects of this thing that's like totally banged up and fucked up. And what's really banged up and fucked up is that this mythology making machine now, Disney operation, has the Disney IPs. Now it has Marvel. Now it has Star Wars. Girls, boys, in-betweeners, everyone, child of all ages, come and just get indoctrinated by this stuff that is not the organic mythology of any sort of native culture, any sort of you culture, any sort of human culture. It's the intellectual property of an organization called Disney. You know what I mean? Okay, then into the hands of Disney, where every IP is recycled forever. Then I wrote down, I underlined Disney, and I have an arrow going out, Dr. Jordan Peterson and the endless Jungian analysis forever within academia, training, and indoctrination. Jordan Peterson, before he became famous for denying people the use of their pronouns, was actually famous for being he's going to claim that postmodernism is terrible. And yet, who is he? He's a Jungian analysis. You don't get more postmodern than Carl Jung. And then you get him, and he's doing fucking 3.5-hour dissertations on the symbolic and mythological meaning of the Lion King and or Pinocchio. So there it is in academia now. So like the kids go to college, they take not only their communications courses, they're going to the psychology department, and they're being shown the Lion King as if it's myth. And I personally, if you watch Jordan Peterson's, I've gone through and watched Jordan Peterson's analysis of both Pinocchio and both The Lion King in 2 different states of mind. One, when I was an active user and abuser of drugs and alcohol. Once when I was straight. and sober. When I watched him when I was under the influence of drugs and alcohol, I thought, holy shit, fucking man, this guy's fucking brilliant. It's true, fucking Lion King. It's a fucking metaphor and the blah, blah, blah. And, the triumph of the son has to overcome the father, but the confrontation of the traumatic past, blah, 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 blah. And the son always, all this shit. And the hyenas reference, represent the danger of the unknown, all this shit. And then you get sober and you watch it again. You're like, this is a grown ass man basically seeing probably a lot of friggin' shapes in the clouds. I don't know if I'm getting a full understanding of the mythological references and metaphors in Pinocchio, but I'm sure getting an introduction to what the fuck's going on inside of Dr. Jordan's head. He's watching kids' movies from the 1940s. And he sees a lot of shit in there. You know what I mean? Maybe just Bad Boy Island is a reference to, Bad Boy Island. Anyway, whatever. The big ones of the 80s. Robert Zemeckis, Technological Resurrection of the Past. He's the guy behind the Back to the Futures 1, 2, and 3. He's also behind Who Framed Roger Rabbit that took place in 1947, but was released in 1988, 40 years later. In the 90s, he made Forrest Gump, which had all sorts of technological innovations in order to put Tom Hanks's character in these antiquated situations where he wasn't, like meeting John F. Kennedy, et cetera, et cetera. And also, if you take a look at his production credits, Robert Zemeckis is an absolute bastard when it comes to the 20-year nostalgia loop. We'll have to go through them in depth. Like I said, this is just an outline. George Lucas, see above about Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Steven Spielberg will be especially interesting in light of the Ready Player One to talk about, and with Lucas examples of the feedback loop of the director themselves. So we have these certain directors get this reputation of being these auteurs, these amazing artists that have done so much and are such champions of of skill in cinema and filmmaking, that they can almost be thought of as doing no wrong. But we talked about things if an actor or an actress, it's also a director. If a person lasts for more than 20 years, they become infused within the feedback loop, and then it's almost impossible to get them jettisoned out. It's almost impossible to get people to realize, like, these people are absolutely capable of making shitty films. George Lucas is absolutely capable of writing a crappy script. Steven Spielberg is absolutely capable of backing the wrong IP, of getting excited about a movie because he's far too old to realize that this movie is stupid. This book is stupid. James, and then I gotta have to go through these notes. I'm gonna have to show you these notes because I can't do it. So then I start talking about aliens. James Cameron and Ridley Scott. Remember, Ridley Scott made the first Alien movie with H.R. Geiger. Then H.R. Geiger also helped to design the creatures for a movie called Species that came out almost 20 years to the day from the original Alien. So it's just the 20 nostalgia loop is there, but then James Cameron took over the reins for the second movie, Aliens. David Fincher then came in for Alien 3. But David Fincher, I also wanted to take a sidetrack on because, we talked about, during the 1990s, there was this lionization of filmmakers like David Fincher and Quentin Tarantino and Roberto Rodriguez, I think his name is. And Spooky says, is Ready Player One an example of a time loop movie released out of sync with the loop? Yes and no. You're on the right track, and we're gonna have to come back to Ready Player One. We're gonna have to come back to all these things. This is just the outline. We'll come back to the Alien movie. So I'm just giving you basically the outline here. Miley doing Heart of Glass is amazing. That's the 40-year nostalgia loop. There you go. So the Ready Player One is an abortion because there's a couple of things that it does absolutely wrong. Well, number one, it's like the concept that takes place in the future, in like 2054. Yeah, people are still nostalgic for the 80s, and it's just because the guy that wrote the book, it's an homage to nostalgia. But that's the guy is what's his name? I forget his name, but he's just, his whole career has been an homage to nerd culture. This is like part of this problem with nerd culture, this self-identification with consumer choices, self-identification. I'm a retro gamer. I'm a, I love, the comic book movies. I'm a huge comic book nerd. One cannot be a comic book nerd. You're a human being. You're a live person. You can read comic books, but I'm so into comic books. It's like, it defines who I am. Well, then you got a fucking mental problem, and you should be like taken away from comic books. Like, you should not be allowed to read those because you've lost your identity within them, within colored pages. And I don't care how well written. I don't care if it's a novel or a graphic novel. I don't care if it's a comic book or a fictional story. If you so identify with a mediated product that's the result of another person's imagination, that you self-identify as being a fan of that, then you've dehumanized yourself. And it's stupid. And it's both stupid and tragic, because I see it. I see kids walking around in you know what I mean, in t-shirts. You know what I mean? A 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid wasn't born in 1995. He has no conception of for a 13 or 14-year-old has no real conception of the content of an Alan Moore comic book like The Killing Joke or Watchmen to begin with. And then they're going to repeat to me like, "Oh my God, Watchmen, blah blah blah," and I'm like, you were told that. Someone fucking told you that Watchmen was cool, that The Punisher was awesome, that this means this, and this storyline was incredible. The first time I started encountering this was when Final Fantasy VII came out in 1990 something, 1998. I'd encounter kids. It's a kid, 19, 20 years old, but trying to tell me, "Oh my God, I can't believe I cried at the end of Final Fantasy VII." I'm like, no, you fucking didn't. Your first video game console was an Xbox 360. You were told that everyone cried at the end of Final Fantasy VII. And so you're gonna repeat that mythology, and you're just gonna be told, and they're gonna come out with a remake. You're like, "I'm so happy." Maybe you'll like the remake. Maybe you'll think it's awesome. Maybe you'll cry at the end. But don't tell me in 2005 that you did, because you weren't old enough. You didn't. You didn't. You know what I mean? And there were times I'd confront people, and they'd be like shocked I'm confronting them. And I'd be like, "Be honest with me. Did you actually play Final Fantasy VII on the original PlayStation? Did you cry at the end?" And they're like, and I'm like, but I'm like not trying to make you feel bad about yourself. I'm trying to wake you up to the fact that somewhere along the line, hypnotism started to be worked on you. You were told that this information was correct. You were told that Star Wars is awesome, is great, is so fucking fantastic. I can tell you, I watched Star Wars recently with 2 9-year-old kids. There were aspects of it that they thought were exciting. There were aspects of it that they were like, "What?" Because thank God they weren't indoctrinated into thinking you have to love Star Wars. You have to know that it's great and fantastic and awesome. It's not. It's not Gone with the Wind. To say nothing of Return of the Jedi, which is like, okay. So David Fincher, Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, everyone like, "Oh my God, these guys are so original. They're so original." The Quentin Tarantino is not original. It's not original by a long shot. What was it? It's the 20-year nostalgia loop. 90s. Go back 20 years. It's Martin Scorsese. It's Brian De Palma making movies with "Say hello to my little friends" with cocaine and things blowing up and tits all over the place. And this guy and a girl gets actually slapped. Oh, fucking A. You know what I mean? It's just this regurgitation. It's nothing new under the fucking sun. And the kids, the people see and recognize the 1990s recycling the 1970s. They don't call it what it is. They say, "Oh, it's a return to the brand new voice." In what way, shape, or form has Quentin Tarantino ever represented a brand new voice? The guy, again, 20-year nostalgia loop, recycling. The friggin' why do people get all crazy, hot and bothered about Reservoir Dogs or why they get all hot and bothered about Pulp Fiction. It's a love letter to the 20 years before, 1970s. That's why you have John Travolta in it. Well, that's not why you have John Travolta. And you see an interview with Quentin Tarantino at the time? He grew up, all he did was watch movies. So he thinks that's reality. These exploitation movies, these grindhouse classics, they're not grindhouse classics. They're classics to you because you were exposed to them as a young man, being, pubescent and seeing, Lady Street Fighter, and then making the mistake that your attraction to Lady Street Fighter indicates that Lady Street Fighter is a good movie. It may be entertaining. Now when people watch it, they say, holy shit, look at that. That looks like the 70s. Look at those bell bottoms. Oh, wow. Plot hole. But then again, you can have plot holes in a movie like that. It's a grindhouse classic. It's meant to be seen in the drive-thru while people are making out in the cars. You want to make out in the car? Of course you don't. I want to make out with any of you. Alien movies, eventual return to Ridley Scott, then we go, this is a perennial mythology of the architects and the engineers, and again, Prometheus and Covenant, where, Jasmine Emmerich asked me like 15,000 years ago where I thought ufology was in the 20-year nostalgia loop. Well, here we are. Here it is. Chariot of the Gods on the 40-year loop, coming back and being reintegrated into Prometheus by Ridley Scott, himself way past his prime, recycling old fucking bullshit. And then, of course, the wackadoos of the internet can see Prometheus and go, it's predictive programming. It's ancient alien hypothesis. They're putting it into the movies for real this time as predictive. How can you call it predictive programming when that programming was predicted by ancient aliens itself? When you start seeing the likes of ancient aliens mythology appearing in the work of Ridley Scott, that's when you know it's really unfortunate that Ridley Scott got old. But that happens. Same thing happens with Steven Spielberg, why he makes a piece of garbage like Ready Player One. Because the 20-something, 30-something that's smart enough to get their finger on the pulse of things can make innovative new moves like Jaws or E.T. By the time he gets to be 70-something years old, he's fucking out of the loop. He's got no fucking idea what end is up. So it's this CGI monstrosity. Let's depict the most immersive video game from 2054 that's going to look like that's going to have graphics of the quality of the most immersive video game of friggin' 2012. Jonaside says, CW, remind people of the 20-year nostalgia loop. If you had an addiction, it will come up. Yes, be careful. The 20-year nostalgia loop is insanity. Play at your own risk. Take care, Oceans in Space. Don't worry about it. There's no way in hell you were anything more crazy than me. Here we go. Come back anytime. The Terminator franchise and its amalgamation with Predator. Side note, importance of IP and franchise rights. Construction of culture via corporation. Also implicated in Disney's ownership of Star Wars and Marvel. Hold on. So there was a video game that came out right around the time of, probably Aliens, called Alien versus Predator. That mashup didn't happen because the geniuses that came up with the intellectual property of Predator as a creative action, or the creators behind the Alien, decided to make that happen. Video game programmers and people who owned the IP, the corporations who own the IP, said, well, if we take this thing and put it together, it'll be fucking great. Also, then Predator 2, they did a Easter egg in the background where you see that it looks like the Predators hunted a xenomorph, and that's where that shit got started. But then the fans didn't demand it. There was no internet culture to force a fan feedback to the corporation. The corporation decided to go with that. The Predator aliens share the same world as there's a theory that the Predator and Alien movies share the same world as the Terminator. Remember, the Terminator is also the product of James Cameron, who had his hands all over aliens. Time travel. whenever time travel comes up, it's all fucked up. Here in the Terminator franchise and also in the Back to the Future movies. Also, problem of reboots equals immortality. I don't know what the fuck these notes. These notes mean something to me. I know what these notes mean. I don't know how to communicate what the notes mean to you. Also, Freddy versus Jason. That's also a recapitulation of mythology, like the Frankenstein meets the Wolfman and Dracula, etc. And then I thought to myself, new contenders, like who's the new Freddy or Jason? And then I said to myself, are the 1980 guys really as important? The Invisible Man is a plot device. The basic the onus and the frisson behind the story, the immortal story of the Invisible Man that gets remade every fucking 10 years like clockwork. The first concept, the first time anyone really talked about the Invisible Man was in Plato. Plato contemplated the moral and ethical choices that would be made by a man who possessed a ring that would turn him invisible. Many of the things that Plato talks about in that in those lessons are actually incorporated into the classical mythos of the Invisible Man. Asking for something that you didn't want, starting off by trying to do good things, and all of a sudden find yourself invariably called to do evil or to satiate your most basic instincts. The inability or the tragedy behind not being able to turn back visible, the need to be seen and have one's actions known and understood by the society in order to control one's actions or even to be defined as yourself. This comes back in the Invisible Man that keeps on getting repeated. Same thing with Dracula that goes back to vampires, which is an ancient mythology. Frankenstein, now check this out. Frankenstein is interesting because the Frankenstein motif is repeated in almost every instance of a movie involving cyborgs or transhumanism. Here, check this out. Frankenstein, here's my notes for Frankenstein. Beginning of the author created new mythology of the modern age, pseudo life constructed from pieces of the dead and or disparate parts. The Tin Man, like as in the Tin Man in the Wizard of Oz. So Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, unlike when Bram Stoker wrote Dracula, he had done research. We know that he did research regarding ancient folklore about ancient monsters and the belief in in vampires. Contrast that with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, where that's the product of her imagination. She wrote that story in reaction to the changing world around her, involving different things with medicine and different studies with electronics and new advances in sciences and pontifications and speculations about where that could go or where it could possibly go. The man's desire to defeat death, not through the invocation of some ancient curse or ritual like the mummy, but rather through this new magic of science. So she might be the first person to engage in this sort of creating or transforming or making of a new mythology. And the thing is, this is like feedback loops and recycling. Mary Shelley may be able to have done that in 1800 whatever, but when you get to 2020 and new people are trying to come up with new characters, they're just going to come up with some bullshit. Corporate mascots and IPs versus organic myths and heroes. We talked about that a little bit at the beginning. I think the folly of timeline reconstruction. You can see the mistake and the overinvestment that human beings are making in these bullshit Hollywood stories when you see people try and make heads or tails or explain the timelines of The Matrix, The Terminator, or Back to the Future, or any of this stuff, where they try and make sense of it. They try and figure out how to close the loopholes or to make it make sense. It doesn't make sense because it didn't happen. It's not a historical narrative. You're not missing a piece of the frame when there's a continuity error between the friggin' Marvel Avengers Age of Ultron and the first Iron Man movie. Those things didn't happen. Writers and directors and editors made creative choices that resulted in all sorts of wackadoo bullshit on the fucking silver screen to entertain your dumbass. There is no continuity to the timeline of the Terminator because it didn't fucking really happen. It's not the product of some, genius, Tolkien or Shakespeare or friggin', David Mamet or friggin', Oscar Wilde or friggin', Mark Twain didn't, write out this amazing mythological universe that got serialized into several different movies. No, various asshole money men owned the rights to the Terminator movies and fucking sold those rights and made those fucking bullshit movies to entertain people and gave it to various different directors and various different writers, and they all made different disparate choices, not because some of them weren't as invested in the intellectual property as the fucking fans are. And so then the people try and make sense of it when this Terminator met this Terminator, or these two Terminator movies happened in an alternative timeline where friggin' Stokey Carmichael didn't go back in time with the invisible car, whatever the fuck. Nerd culture run amok. Communications majors. Guys and gals that are into heavy metal that then become ancient history majors or medieval times majors. Goth morticians. And also goths that do their postdoctorate dissertations on Vlad Tepes. That fucking bullshit. Self-definition versus via products purchased. Not even that good. Some of this shit's not even that fucking good. Superman is stupid. Superman is so fucking stupid. Captain America is stupid. These are fucking stupid characters. America. I'm a Captain America. I really believe in America. It's fucking stupid. Superman. Why the fuck is he wearing that fucking goofy outfit? Why the fuck is he wearing that fucking goofy outfit? It's not Superman if he's not wearing that fucking stupid outfit. Well, my attitude about it is that if you put that outfit on, I don't care how strong you are, if you got lasers coming out of your eyes, if you put on that fucking outfit, there's something that's not so super about you. Right? Look at Superman. He's still wearing that jerky outfit. You know what I mean? It's dumb. You know what I mean? And even when friggin' what's his face? Oh, another fucking guy who knows all about the 20 nostalgia loop. Another guy who's so fucking self-referential and just a product of the media that he consumed. Who was that fucking guy? Tim Burton. I'm a kind of a creepy guy, and I draw these kind of creepy cartoons. I like Tim Burton. I do. His old stuff, right? But it's like, even when he was going to do the Superman movie with Nicolas Cage, they still were wearing the fucking stupid outfit. And they were still going to hire Kevin Smith to write the script. Why? Because there was anything about Clerks that made you think that this guy could write a major Hollywood action movie? No, because people knew he's into comic books, so he'll fucking get it. And they still had Nicolas Cage wearing the fucking ridiculous outfit. It's a stupid outfit. The people in the 1920s and 30s and shit, like they wrote these things for like little kids. You know? Random encounters in time. You didn't choose what was on the screen at the time of your birth. This happened to me also. Here's what this is part of me, part of my waking up process. Right? I get Netflix, and when did I first get Netflix as a streaming service? 2008. Oh shit, look at all the stuff that's on here. Oh fuck, let me add this to the watch list. Let me add this to the watch list. G.I. Joe? Fucking I love G.I. Joe growing up. Let me add that to the watch list. He-Man? Fucking I love He-Man. She-Ra? Sure. The fuck, I thought it was for girls, but it was still on. Boom. Boom. You add all this fucking bullshit to your watch later list. And then you watch it again. And you're like, there's 5 seasons of this? It's like I want to re-experience my youth, and I want to my only interest at some point was like I just wanted to see what fucked up idea I was exposed to at 9 years old, right? Like, fishnet stockings. Where the fuck did that come from? Maybe watching fucking Baroness and Scarlet, wrestling in like season 3, episode 12 of G.I. Joe will like help me understand some shit. You know what I mean? Like, oh, so that's where that comes from. You know what I mean? Redhead and a brunette. I get it. You know what I mean? The glasses thing. Baroness. I get it. I get it. You're half a step away from friggin' Betty Page. It's all starting to make sense now, right? That personal archaeology. But a lot of this stuff is terrible. It's terrible. Oh yeah, the cartoons were stupid, but the comic books were no. I go back to your vintage comic books. Colossus. We'll never get through that time displacement ray unless we do something interesting. I hear you, Cyclops, but we're running out of time. While you guys are talking, I'm over here being Wolverine. Schnickty, schnickty. It's fucking stupid. A lot of stuff is stupid. It's just stupid. Anyway, not that there's nothing that there's things that aren't stupid, but a lot of it was just stupid. In the Loop, Inherited Histories for Sale. That's the thing. Me talking about the kids who say that they cried at Thanos. What do you care about Final Fantasy VII or the death of Superman? We already talked about that. We have become immune to the passage of time because it stopped so long ago. No change decade to decade post 2001. First actual year of the new millennium. Endless recycled loops. September 11th, 2001 was the last original moment in time. Ever since then, it's been perpetual war. The war we are still in Afghanistan. We are still in Iraq. It's perpetual. Time has frozen. Putin has been the leader of Russia since 1999. Nothing has changed. And we forget about it. We forget. I need to remind people. Remember, visualize if you were alive during 1995. And then imagine if you were alive during 1985 and hold those two time periods in your mind. That's 10 years. Now remember 1985 to 75 if you can. That's 10 years. Remember 2000 to 1990. It's 10 years. Remember that. What the difference between those periods of time felt like, technologically, media-wise, experientially, what people were doing, thinking, saying, what was going on in the world, the way things looked, sounded, seemed, and tasted. They were distinct. Now think of 2020 compared to 2010. You can't tell the difference. Minor differences. MySpace was big, and we haven't even really heard about Facebook yet. That's minutia. I'm not talking about one particular TV show being number one. I'm talking about the fact that if you look at Seinfeld and Friends, you can see it as being distinct from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. But nowadays, everything looks exactly like everything else, and it's been that way for a while. It's been that way for a long fucking while. Endless recycle loops. Roger Rabbit, The Matrix, Ready Player One, and Sword Art Online. Virtual realities, 1988 to 99. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Tron from 1982, 1. And then The Matrix in 1999, which is basically just a remake of Tron. It's really fucking The Matrix is Tron. No offense. Then you compare that to 20 years before that, 1968 to 1979. Timothy Leary, Steve Jobs, Acid, and Computers. If you look at Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, it's a refutation of the nerd shall inherit the earth myth. Remember this trope from the 2000s.com boom? The nerds have inherited the earth. The nerds have inherited the earth. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates are not nerds. First of all, Steve Jobs was an attractive guy in his youth. Look at that guy in his youth. He is not, by any shape or form of imagination, a nerd. The Apple, that was the name of Apple Computers, is because he did so much fucking acid in fucking India back in 1969 that he went through a period of time where all he ate for religious reasons was fucking apples. Okay. He was in no way, shape, or form sense a nerd. You never heard Steve Jobs talking about all the fucking cool comic books and toys he used to play with in science fiction movies he was into. And Bill Gates, you got arrested all the time. And his biggest hobby in high school and in college was gambling and raising hell. He might not be much to look at, but he was not a fucking nerd. Not like we're told that, oh, Sheldon Cooper and fucking his repressed roommate are going to be the Bill Gates and Steve Jobs of the future. No, they're fucking not. You know what I mean? No, they're not. And not every fucking nerd is a fucking is just because you jack off in front of a computer doesn't mean you're a fucking computer nerd genius. Elon Musk has imagined real life Tony Stark, confusion of play and reality. Question: are things always in fashion because of legitimate interest or because the companies keep on bringing them back? The time loops of nostalgia and its endless repeats. 20 or 30-year loop. Onset of force in 1980. Between 78 and 1980 is when the nostalgia loop first took hold, and you started having this experience of lack of originality and a repeat and recycling of things. It was a total takeover by 2000. By 1998 or 2000, plus 40 to 50 years, feedback loop repeat. 1980s are a repeat of the 50s and 60s culture because it's a 20 to 30 year nostalgia loop. The 1990s was a repeat of the 60s or 70s. 2000s is a repeat of the 70s and 80s. But hold on, the 80s was a repeat of the 50s and 60s. So really, the 2000s are the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. All 40 years smushed in together. And if you imagine the year 2000 and the culture of what was going on there, you could tell what it's going on. It's Stray Cat Strut all the way to Oh, Mickey, You're So Fine. 50s cultures, dudes walking around acting like them and their girlfriends are in fucking 1952 or whatever, hanging out with people that are going to the Fish concert, pretending it's 1968 in Disneyland. 2010 is the 80s and the 90s, which is just because you're all the way from the 80s to 90s, and the 80s and the 90s were already in a recycle loop. You've got the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s all flipped in together. And that's why all distinctions have disappeared. There is nothing that's new or original. Everything is a bit and piece of Frankenstein's monster, of a little bit of rock. It's rockabilly, but it's also with the goth aesthetic as explored by Susie and the Banshees and the Damned circa 1980. Well, isn't that fucking original? Oh, shit. It sounds exactly like the 1950s. But instead of singing about girls at the sock hop, he's singing about ghouls at the graveyard. How fucking original. And you're doing that in 2010? Wow, it's like goth never happened. It's like you came up with this whole original fucking thing. And all these youth subcultures where everyone's dressed around as true individual, independent people, dressed exactly like the other people. Oh, here you are. You're a punk rocker, and I can tell you're a punk rocker because you got your punk rocker pins, your punk rocker shirt, and your entire look and aesthetic was created by people that are old enough to be your fucking parents. And Green Day always sucked. 2020 is the 90s through the 1000s, which is everything again doubled. So then we have the nostalgia loop on top of the nostalgia loop, and no one knows what comes from where. Post 2000 and certainly 2010, it becomes impossible to locate the media item in the past. Is it nostalgia for the early 2000s or the 1980s, etc.? Also, lousy commitment and bad writing and concept increases the blurring of the lines, not a recreation of 1984, but rather the 80s. It's Wonder Woman 1984, but we're told it's the 80s, even though it really, if you weren't told that it was Wonder Woman 1984 and you didn't take your time to notice the anachronistic computer monitors occasionally in some scenes, then what about Wonder Woman 1984 indicates to you that it's Wonder Woman 1984 and not Wonder Woman 2014? The fact that they're playing 80s stuff on the jukebox? Dude, there are plenty of places where they play 80s stuff on the jukebox. The fact that they're wearing leopard print shoes and neon tops off the shoulder. Wow, that totally indicates that it's the 80s, and in no way, shape, or form indicates that it could possibly be in 2020 or 2019. The lies, not a recreation of 1984, but rather everything on top. On everything on tap, this means streaming services like iTunes and Netflix and Hulu and everything else, means no central timelines are referred to. Everyone is allowed to escape into their own timeline ghetto, nostalgia, cult cultures, and subcultures. We all know this fucking get up and go. Also, no new culture is allowed to predominate as the sound of the new, as no new culture is allowed to predominate as the sound or the look of the new and the now, because of oversaturation from media of the past and its after echoes. I.e., the new sound has to not only compete with the output of the 1970s and 80s, but also all instances of recreations or nostalgia for the 1970s and 80s and its influences. Vaporwave is perverted melange of the 1980s and 1990s. It's early 1990s computer aesthetics, but using the color palette of the 1980s. That's not fucked up. The Empire Strikes Back, The Mandalorian, and Baby Yoda. The Empire Strikes Back came out in 1980. That was the first appearance of Yoda. The first appearance of Baby Yoda is 2020, 40 years after the fact. Yoda died in 1983, and so did Boba Fett died there that year as well in Return of the Jedi, but he's shown at full health in the prequels that came out 20 years later. And now you get him again, another re-loop and re-nostalgia of it, but now we've just reset his clock, make him a different character, and turn him into Baby Yoda, where everyone goes fucking cute bananas. J.J. Abrams is as 20-year reboot of Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. Not as good, but as we are supposed to have one. It's the present, not the past, remember? So someone is drafted in. Because they had a Steven Spielberg and a George Lucas in the late 1970s through the 80s, right? That means that good directors, good original directors who break and shatter the mold and makes science fiction and nerd content some of the times, that's a thing. So we're going to have one today. So they make it one out of Josh Abrams or Joss Whedon or Kevin Smith, even though all of these directors fucking suck. Everyone likes them because they make nerd content for nerds. You're a nerd, so you like science fiction and sword and sandals fantasy movies and Magic the Gathering. Well, here's new sci-fi content for you. Just act as though this is as good as Star Trek. Just act as though this is as engaging as the X-Files or as groundbreaking, and not in any way, shape, or form just a desperate reboot and recycling because there are no original ideas left. These things don't happen organically. J.J. Abrams and Joss Whedon didn't happen organically. They're not as good, but real George Lucas was not a sci-fi nerd grown up, but these new contenders have already been trained and indoctrinated in, and therefore their output is inherently recycled. The aforementioned Abrams, Whedon, and Kevin Smith. Recycle the actors, living meme. Walk on as potlatch with the original or nerd cred actors and actresses. Oh, we're gonna hire fucking Simon Pegg to be in Ready Player One. We're gonna put Simon Pegg in fucking The Boys. Why? Because he's been in this other nerd product. He was in Spaced, man. Remember Spaced? Which itself was nostalgia loop crazy, a celebration not of original content, but a celebration of the lifestyle of you can recognize yourself in this character and relate to this character because this character is constantly basically in fantasy land, basically having a hard time interacting with any sort of sense of normalcy because they're invested all their time, energy, and knowledge is invested in this ephemera video game and nerd culture. We've been here for an hour and 45 minutes. It's 6:26 by my clock. An hour and 45 minutes to get through. So in theory, what I'm going to do is these notes were the outline. So in theory, Ready Player One, Wonder Woman 1984, WandaVision, Battleship, Rampage, Jumanji, The Big Bang Theory, King Kong, Godzilla, Star Wars, the prequels, then the sequels, the work and output of Robert Zemeckis, the work and output of George Lucas, the work and output of Steven Spielberg, the work and output of James Cameron, Ridley Scott, the Alien franchise, David Fincher, the Terminator franchise, time travel meditated as a subject, uh, Disney, Freddy versus Jason, The Invisible Man, Dracula, and Frankenstein, corporate mascots and IPs, the folly of timeline reconstruction, nerd culture run amok, Roger Rabbit, The Matrix, and Ready Player One versus Sword Art Online. The shit that's represented in this segment of notes. This bullshit and the bullshit that follows, followed by J.J. Abrams' deconstruction. We'll also throw Joss Whedon under the bus along with Kevin Smith. Or, knowing me, none of this will ever be talked about again. Right? How many times have I come here and been like, so what we're going to do, I think this is, I don't know if this is going to take 2 videos or 3. We're really going to get granular with Rosicrucianism. We're just going to use the Wikipedia article as a basic outline. We're just going to go through the stuff paragraph by paragraph. Just take our time with it. Talk about it, think about it. So basically, here's the thesis. We'll just kind of lay it out this first video. The thing that we are seeing, the social, societal implications and movement known as QAnon. If we look back in the past, we can see and understand how it's just a recapitulation of sociological concerns we saw already in the past with things like Rosicrucianism. I make that intro video and I never make another video about it again, and then I set the video to private. Damon Spencer says Simon Pegg was drawn in the original The Boys comic. So fucking what? Why was he there? Why was Simon Pegg drawn in the original Boys comic? Was he Simon Pegg? Was Simon Pegg here? Hi, my name is Simon Pegg, and I'm the father of this guy, this bedraggled guy who's in this comic book? Or did he just look like Simon Pegg? Or did the author say, the writer say, like, oh, I drew him based on Simon Pegg? And if he did, why? Garth Ennis based the character off Simon Pegg. Fine. It is Simon Pegg. And that doesn't change my point of view, because why the fuck is he in a fucking comic book? Why that cameo in Amazon's The Boys is more significant than it looks. We presume, given that you're reading this, that you've tucked into your first helping of Amazon Prime Video's The Boys, a dark, blackly comic take on superheroes from the people who brought you Preacher. Da-da-da-da-da. And Simon Pegg plays his dad. Nice work, you might think. Pegg is something of a geek figurehead, after all. That's what I'm saying. Good that they've got his seal of approval. But there's more to his cameo than meets the eye, because Pegg was, in fact, the inspiration for wee Hughie in the original comics. Why? I give a fuck. Yes, that's Simon Pegg. I see that. Meanwhile, don't get me started on why I think The Boys is overrated. Garth Ennis, the comics writer, emphasized that it was important to capture an innocence but tough determination in Huey. Two things that seem to contradict each other, and somehow in early sketches he kept looking too old. When I saw Simon Pegg in Spaced, I thought he captured that balance perfectly. Congratulations. So there you go. None of this changes my analysis. None of this changes my analysis. Serpent State. CW, I know you're old, but you weren't around in the 1800s, so you shouldn't speak of a work such as Frankenstein, you poser. Fair enough. Fair enough. Thoughts on Garth Brooks and J-Lo? Is that a thing? Of course he is. Keats Roth says Garth Ennis is famous pulling a lot of pop culture icons in his comics, such as Bill Hicks and John Wayne and Preacher. Of course. That's all you get now. All you get from any of these, listen, I'm going to tell you something that is not 100% true, but is absolutely 100% true. You go ahead and find me the example of an individual who challenges this model, okay? Post 2000, there is no new creative voice, right? I'm not talking about Quentin Tarantino making a movie in 2004. I'm talking about a new voice, an individual whose work had not been published, he or she's work had not been published, performed, or yada before 2000. Post 2000, you get no one whose work is not an amalgamation and a work of collage and pastiche. Not a one. Name me one. Prove me fucking wrong. And I'm playing it safe by putting in the year 2000. I really could go to 1990. The Weeknd. Oh my God, this brave new voice in R&B. Not scared to be sensitive. Okay, that's interesting. There's a new guy they're talking about The Weeknd. Let me put it in. Oh, it's a Michael Jackson cover band. Oh, it's a Prince cover band. This new female voice who's breaking the mold and challenging expectations. Put it in. Oh, it's 50% Madonna. It's 50% Madonna, 25% Janet Jackson, 25% Bjork. Wow, what a fascinating amalgamation of shit that's already fucking happened. John Wayne is the main character's guide and preacher, like Val Kilmer as Elvis in Tarantino's True Romance. See? Loop upon loop upon loop. The act of self-referation is an act. It becomes self-referential itself. Spooky. CW Chanter is just a rehash of The Critic. Time loop confirmed. Well, it's possible. I hated it. It stinks. What is pastiche? You give you the dictionary definition, so I don't make a fool of myself. Noun, an artistic work in a style that imitates that of another work, artist, or period. The operetta is a pastiche of the 18th century styles. Similar, imitation, parody, takeoff. Pistachio. Verb, imitate the style of an artist or work. Gauguin took himself to a Pacific island and pastiched the primitive art he found there. There you go. Time effluent for you. That's one to fucking grow on. Bunya, CW is loopy. Bunya's a hater, but I love you. Oh my God, Peasant Media. What about Witch House, bro? This is a perfect example. So Witch House, basically, you have to understand the sound that became known as Witch House is basically, if you go 20 years before that, all it is dark, new wave, post, new romantic synthesizer work. And the fact that they put a house beat underneath it doesn't really change the fact that the synth sounds and the presets, basically all it is that it's like proto synth goth that was made on the internet. You know what I mean? And then think about how much of these styles, whether it's vaporwave or whether it's witch house, needs for it to be cued in for you to understand that it's witch house, for you to understand that it's dungeon synth. It requires all of this extra musical information, the use of text in very specific ways or symbology, pseudo album cover art that is self-referential, titles, the replacements of U's with V's, which if you go back to the U's, substituting U's for V's and stuff, that just, if you go back on the 20 nostalgia loop, that's just the work of Genesis Peorge and the Temple of Psychic Youth, like on the fucking nose. You know what I mean? And it's a dirty little secret. Here's what happens. So the 25-year-old wannabe creator is old enough to know that he or she is aware of cultural references that the kids just 5 or 6 years younger than them don't know about at all. So the guy knows, about not just Friday I'm in Love. They know about the early Cure records and the sound of the Cure record, like Pornography or Faith. But they know that the kids like slightly younger than them don't know about it. So they ape that style. They make that sound. The kids hear it and they mistake it for something. Like, how many things in vaporwave do you hear and it's like, oh, it sounds exactly. It's incredible that it sounds like exactly like it came from 1984. Yes, but it's not from 1984. It wasn't made in 1984. It was made in 2021. It was made in 2019. It's not from 1984. And the fact that it could be so easily mistaken from a work from 1984 in the field of vaporwave or synth pop or whatever, or cold wave or whatever kind of blank wave you want to make up for a new micro genre. It's the same thing with doom metal. Oh my God, they made this. It sounds just like it came out of like a Marshall stack in 1972, but it didn't come out. It didn't come out in 1972. The people that were making those sounds and records in 1972 were doing so organically because that was the nature and the way that the sound was evolving. These kids who were not born in 1972, half of them weren't even born in 1992, are creating or attempting to create a period of time that they will never be able to recreate with any sort of accuracy because they were not there. They just weren't there. And the reason that they want to get back there so much is because they're free to imagine that back there was as amazing as they want to imagine because they didn't realize they didn't have to live through it to realize how shitty it was. I try to explain to my kids all the time what it was like when me and their mother would watch whatever was on TV because that's what you could watch. There was no Netflix where you could, or YouTube where you could watch any old thing you wanted to a la carte. You know what I mean? There were times where I, as a 14-year-old heavy metal kid, would end up watching fucking Fried Green Tomatoes or fucking Terms of Endearment because that's what the fuck was on the TV. You know what I mean? I'm going to go all the way. Here's what we'll do. We'll do a live chat dive. I'm gonna try and do it like this. Take care, Genocide. Oh my God, am I doing this? Let me see this. Let me just figure out what's going on. Reverend Keats says, I fail to see how Susie and the Cramps is not cool. No, the Cramps and Susie and the Banshees are cool. Then the 20-year nostalgia. You go 20 years past the prime work of Susie Sue, and what do you get? The yeah, yeah, yeahs. And people are acting like this, that this young lady in the yeah, yeah, yeahs did anything other than do a very, very good Susie from Susie and the Banshees impersonation. That's it. Oh, they take a little bit from Blondie too, so it's not a cloned sound. No, but it's still just 1 + 2 = 3. It's still a Lego approach. You know what I mean? God bless you. Hey, Loop Lounge, Passaic. Hell yeah. And that's it. Nostalgia loop on top of nostalgia loop on top of nostalgia loop. The kids, the cool hip kids in the 90s were listening to 80s music. And then in 2000, they started thinking that they were original by creating 80s type music sounds. There is a resurgence of new metal. 20-year nostalgia loop brings us back to 2001. There is a new era of quote unquote new metal. And just like everything's recycling comes back terrible, look up new metal on friggin' YouTube or Spotify. You'll get there and you'll hear them. And it's like, wow, I really knew that Korn and Limp Bizkit were like, some of their shit was really terrible. And here's people trying to sound like those bands, and they're not those bands. So they're not quite as good, but they're good at being terrible. They sound exactly as bad as those guys did. It's horrendous. And why would you ever bring that shit back? Damien Spencer says, like Picasso said when he went to the Lascaux caves, there's nothing new under the sun. Fair enough, possibly. But I think that the corporate interests and corporate manufacturing and playing the capitalist workings behind the scenes makes it worse because it's not organic. We're not creating cave paintings. We're aping corporatist styles. Sojourn On says, what does CW mean? J.J. Abrams isn't organic. There's nothing original about J.J. Abrams. There's nothing original or organic about J.J. Abrams. He's a product. He fits a need. They needed a new George Lucas / Steven Spielberg, so they found some douchebag and ordained it to be him. I mean, look at Lost. I mean, that's where you're really going to enter an existential hellhole, is when the nostalgia loop comes back to guys like him and the work of him and Joss Whedon, because that's recycling of recycling. You'll have nothing left. It'll just be shit in space, right? The fucking movie, and a hot chick and a bustier, whoa, fucking A. Oh, but she kicked the guy in the balls, so she's some sort of feminist icon. You know what I mean? As the cosplay girls dressed up as her walk around the fucking convention hall in, desperate fear of slipping on the fucking stains on the fucking floor. All perverted bastards. Edgar Wright. Why do I know that name? Ugh. Oh, Baby Driver and Scott Pilgrim are both heavy nostalgia loops via pop music. Absolutely, they are. Keats says Space was nothing but a comedic genre hopping comedy utilizing styles of past auteurs doesn't make it bad. No, I'm not saying that it's necessarily bad, but also the fact that it's not bad. Spaced is 22 years old. Space first season came out in 1999. So when we're saying that nostalgic tour around the fence wasn't necessarily bad, okay. But now we're having things that are nostalgic look backs to it. So you're going to have things that are nostalgic look backs to nostalgic look backs. That's what you had. The first episode of Big Bang Theory aired in 2008. That was its first season, was I think 2008. So it's 20 years on from 1988, which was just when the first Batman movie came out with what's his face, that directed by Tim Burton and such. The fact the comic book culture and all that jazz. Woof, woof, woof. So Mario Heat says Godzilla versus King Kong is a totally new idea. Regurgitations of regurgitation perennials. I have a King Kong, the primordial, Godzilla, the future fear. And no one's going to see these movies. The cultural impact of the new King Kong movies. And remember, 20-year nostalgia loop. When did Peter Jackson make King Kong? What was that? 2000 and what? 2005. So it was 15 years ago. Doctor Strange. Well, all these things. And then we're into the Simon Pegg and the original comic book, and we've been here for 2 hours. Jesus. So what do I have to do? I have to figure out a way to be able to cover this stuff. Talk about Witch House. It's Hot Topic Occultism synth. Rooster Cyburbs trying to bait me into a fight says I think he's saying Lady Gaga is one of the most original artists out there today. No, Lady Gaga is a 20-year nostalgic ripoff of Madonna, who herself is a nostalgic ripoff essentially of David Bowie. So the pop auteur, being creative and artistic to an ultimate degree, gender bending, bold new statements in fashion, and the melding of musical styles. We've been down this road, which is not to say that I can write a song better than her, but just to say that everyone works in ends up. Serpent State says Mersbo is the end of music. Not necessarily Mersbo per se, but noise music in itself. You have to realize that the beginning of noise music is the late 1970s, which in itself, if you go to the 20-year nostalgia loop and go to the late 1950s, you already have people like Xenakis and John Cage working with, and Karl-Heinz Stockhausen working with atonality and extreme amounts of volume, feedback, and noise, to say nothing of the work of the Velvet Underground. So by the time you get to noise music, you're at an end state. You know what I mean? It's totally a harsh noise in and of itself is an end state, because there's nothing to do beyond that. So, and then also it's like noise music. Mersbo, the first one of the first pure noise records was Lou Reed's Metal Machine music that came out in 1978. It came out in the same year that Music for Airports by Brian Eno came out. So you know what I mean? Like that's over 43 years ago, 44 years ago. Noise music. That's why so much of noise music has nothing to do with the contents of the tape or the CDR. It has to do with the album cover art, right? You have to be told that this is noise music about this or something or other. Simogen Limax says, hello, how do you feel about universities hiring metaphysicists to help out bringing the novel approach to the sciences? Heard that from Lex Friedman's interview with a religionist philosopher. That's fine. I don't think it's going to achieve any good, but they can do it. I think that people are trying to, do something. It's like the same thing with microdosing. It's just call it what you want. It's getting high at work. Here we go. Oh God. Mary Louise. Oh my God, Rooster Cyber is just like totally just trying to pick a fight. Mario Heat, CW, is it time for another Shrek movie? If they did, they were going to make one. They should make one now. because they're right on the nostalgia loop for that one. Christy says, it's okay to be inspired by the past and to bring music forward in time, especially if it isn't possible to make new music, right? Yeah, no, the creative art of making movies or making music or making any of this stuff, fashion choices or whatever. I'm talking about these things and I get excited about it, but we're having fun here. I mean, we're not talking about anything important. These are consumer products. People act as though, oh, this music changed my life. The music was around when your life was changing. It is beautiful music is beautiful music. Inspiring music is inspiring music. The kids are going to keep on making music no matter how loud I shout to get them off my lawn, right? So, of course, but it's just let's be honest and acknowledge what's happening. Let's not let the kids who are making music that sounds almost indistinguishable from Joy Division, let's stop pretending that they're making something original because the band that was the hip band of the moment from 2 years ago was making music that sounded exactly like, I don't know, the Sex Pistols rather than Joy Division. Let's understand what a derivative sound is, and the fact that these kids we've entered an end stage. All of this music becomes folk music. Doesn't make it bad. It's just let's not play games of acting like this person is an artistic genius or this person is creating something new when they're not. You know, they're painting abstractionist works in the milieu of abstract art. They're creating realistic, and whether figurative art in the field of figurative art. Just let it be, and let's not pretend. Hold on. Let's not pretend that Jay and Silent Bob get hookah'd is as good as Clerks. Let's not play games with ourselves. Let's not play games with these artists. Let's not act like Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One is a classic Steven Spielberg movie. It's not Jaws. It's not E.T. It's not Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and it never will be. It's box office boffo bullshit, made by billionaires who doesn't understand what fucking artistic credibility is anymore. God bless them. The Lloyd, Jack White's first album is basically the Cramps. That's it. Let's not act like Jack White is doing anything other than covering the fucking Cramps. And then when he gets really good at his guitar and gets really good at singing, he's going to make some less abrasive work and will act like, oh my God, the new Beck. And it's like he just stopped with the hip hop wannabe white boy Beastie Boys hip hop bullshit and is now singing you fucking Nick Drake covers. Doesn't change the fact that it's singer songwriters 1970s bullshit coming out in 2005 with an album cover lit and looks like 1970 singer songwriter bullshit album cover number 37956, but with the pink and purple fluorescent lighting that gives it that post 2000s new wave aesthetic. What? It's a bold new juxtaposition of bullshit from the 80s and bullshit from the 70s. Let's do cocaine. Rooster Sideburb says this original thing is pretty silly. That's what she said. Did he write regarding Henry? Jesus Christ. Are we talking about Steven Spielberg? There you go. Sojourn CW, what is the mechanism behind this lack of creativity? And are new ideas suppressed, less risk taking, or are we really getting more dull? It's not about any of those things. I think it's about oversaturation. Listen to this part. Everything on tap means no central timeline to refer to. That means streaming services. Everything on iTunes available to you now. No need to go record hunting. It's all there at the drop of a hat. Everyone is allowed to escape into their own. I refer to it as a timeline ghetto, but just think it could be anything. Everyone's listening to their own little Spotify playlist. So nostalgia cultures, then not and subcultures. Also, no new culture is allowed to predominate as the sound of the new or of the now because of oversaturation from media of the past. I think that's what it really is. I think it has to do with oversaturation. It has to do with the fact that none of these, like when I was growing up, if a movie was picked up to be on, channel 11 at the noon movie, that was it. Movies were selected. They went back. The only X amount of videos would be VHS movies would make it to VHS tape. Only your local video store would only book or get copies of X number of movies. So everybody, everything got, there was only a small amount of things to look at. So people were forced to be creative or come up with new ideas. But now, because nothing goes away, everything is so hyper, influenced because everyone is exposed to everything. I can't imagine a person working in the field of graphic design, whether it's comic books or a person trying to break into movie making or music making, who is not, by definition, because they're going to be interested in music as a music fan, be exposed to all these things. Also, the dirty little secret around a lot of this fucking new stuff that comes out now with software and whatever, especially, I'm going to speak specifically about music. I don't know if it's so much in movies, but I can imagine it being that way too. This is so much that people don't realize. The kids in the front row listening to the DJ who comes out with this new track, this new beat that they're flipping. The kids don't know how much of that is preset sounds, how little actual creativity went into the making of that supposed creative product. So I don't know. And also, I'm a grouchy old man. Serpent State says Twin Peaks literally predicted its own nostalgia loop comeback 30 years after the original. Peasant Media says Papa Roach is making a comeback, bruh. Papa Roach are attempting to make a comeback. Papa Roach are going to release a new record. They will not make a comeback. They had one song, Last Resort. They're a one-hit wonder. God bless them. Oh, Andrew Vale says maybe we all died in 2000 and this is purgatory. Yes, but there were too many indications of where things were going. We might have died in 1980. Keith says 89 is Tim Burton's first Batman. So there you go. Oh, then people are getting, there you go. There you go. Silver Apples. Well, okay, there you go. Wingnut joining us on Twitch says it's the illusion of choice from a huge selection when the reality is web analytics feeding similarity. Fair enough, absolutely. Rizome says, hi all, I'm 2 hours in the past catching on the stream from the beginning. Ignore the fact where I scream at everyone who doesn't listen to all my streams. Oh, Mario Heat says, CW, when will you review a new AC/DC album? Probably soon, sometime. I don't know. Keith says, if we died in 1980, then the ghost of what would be me has been dead all along. What? No! but if she marries him, I'll never be born. Anyway, folks, we've now been here 2 hours and 18 minutes, and that's 2 hours and 18 minutes too fucking long. I'll be with you guys. I'll be with you guys tomorrow. Wednesday's a toss-up. Wednesday, I might have to miss because yada yada. It's already 7 o'clock. I do this. I spend 2 hours and 18 minutes yelling with you, and then I say to myself, well, at the end of the night, when I have no time to myself, I say to myself, what did I do? Yes, CW Chanter's an original idea, Spooky. Fuck you. Anywho, I love you all. I really do. I know I yell. I know I scream. But we're all having fun here, right? Aren't we having fun? Yeah. I'll say at home. I'm going to say, we're all having fun. And you're all going to go, you're just wherever you are. If you're watching this live, if you're watching this on rewind, don't be scared to make a fool of yourself. Come on, join in the fun. I'm going to go. I'm going to count to 3. I'm going to go, aren't we all having fun, kids? And then you're going to go, yeah. And wherever you are, you're going to do it, okay? Trust me. It's going to be awesome. Do it. If you don't do it, you'll feel like an ass, and you'll be like, oh, I'm not going to do that. If you do that, you're going to be like, this is awesome. Here we go. Check this out. You debunked your entire video in one question. No, I never said I wasn't original. Fuck this. 1, 2, 3. We're all having fun, kids, right? Yeah, there you go. Okay. So, kind of set myself up for a lot of disappointment here. I guess tomorrow I'm supposed to talk about Ready Player One, or maybe I'll talk about something else. I'm just going to leave these notes here to marinate. Or should I take them with me to read them again? Maybe I'll do a call and response show tomorrow, and I'll get your feedback, and then everyone will tune in who didn't watch today's video, and they'll be like, "What are we talking about? Anyone see the new Simon Parks? CW, did you see the new Robert David Steele? Whoa, he's saying that Trump's still president." Ready Player One, another stream I will watch before you do. Are you telling me to do? You've not seen it. Are you prepared to see it? Oh God, that movie was an absolute abortion. Will you be able to see it by tomorrow? You have a good night too, Wingnuts. I'll waste a couple hours. It's available. What's it on now? It's on HBO Max. I don't know what else it's on. Get somewhere. Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst, but we saw Jonaside said that it was good. And I was like, ooh, Jonaside, unpopular opinion. No, he's not here. But oh no. He's not going to like what I say about Ready Player One. It's an abomination. And meanwhile, it came out 3 years ago. And there's like, if you go back 3 years on YouTube, on Nerd YouTube, there's like thousands of videos being like, Ready Player One sucked. The book was terrible too. And whatever. Now we're just getting into it now because I'm fucking behind the times. Anyway, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. If nobody told you they loved you today, somebody just did. That's somebody CW Chanter. Make of it what you will. And I will catch you then where we talk about something completely unrelated to the nostalgia loop, without a doubt. Spooky's gonna watch the movie. He's gonna come back and be like, "Oh man, that was terrible. I can't wait to talk about it." And I'll be like, "Let's talk about Jumanji."